Hi friends, my name is Maddie and welcome back to my YouTube channel. For today's video, I'm going to be going over the books that I read in the month of July. I ended up reading 13 books in the month of July. I ended up picking up a lot more nonfiction books than I was entirely expecting, and I didn't exactly tackle all of my TBR, so it was a little bit disappointing, but I definitely had a better reading month in July than I did in June, so let's go ahead and get started. One of the first books I picked up was a nonfiction book called The Rape of Nanking by Isis Chang. I ended up giving this one 4.5 out of 5 stars, and I feel kind of weird rating this book considering how heavy of a topic it is. So basically, if you don't know about this subject, this is when during the Sino-Japanese wars during World War II era, Japan infiltrated China, and in one of the bigger cities it basically pillaged and raped and killed like everyone in the city, and it's estimated that like hundreds of thousands of people were brutally murdered, and it's just absolutely terrible. But it goes into pretty much heavy detail about what had happened, and there's very little account of what had happened because the Japanese were very smart and wiped out every single piece of information, so they could kind of come out of this kind of looking a little bit spotless. So I did feel like this book was broken down in a way that was non-overwhelming, even though it is, like I said, such a heavy, awful topic to discuss. But I think that it's something that everyone should read and should know about, because it has personal accounts of basically like what happened beforehand and what happened during this, and then people who were in the safe zone in the city of Nanking, and it's just tied together in a very intricate way, and it kind of paints this whole story that otherwise we really don't know about because there is so little recollection of what had happened. The only reason I didn't give this book 5 out of 5 stars was because I did feel like certain lines were recycled multiple times, and I felt like that was just kind of, it was overdone in that aspect. And I'm not kidding, like it was like word for word these lines were like used multiple times, so that kind of like irked me a little bit. But overall, I think this was a great, very informative book that everyone should absolutely pick up. The next book I ended up picking up was Keeping 13 by Chloe Walsh. This is the second book in the Boys of Tommen series. Again, this is just an absolutely fantastic read. I forget how traumatic this book is, but I am very glad that this does have a happy ending. And I really love the characters in this book. The side characters in this one are just absolutely fantastic, and they're highlighted so well. And I think that's why I love this book so much. So this was a 5 out of 5 for me. So the next two books I picked up were the first and second book in the Plated Prisoner series, so Guild and Glint, and basically this is a King Midas retelling. So you're following Oren, who is a golden concubine pretty much, and everyone believes that Midas has the power to turn everything into gold, but it's actually Oren. So Oren is the power behind King Midas, and no one really knows the secret, and so it's all very like hush hush, and it does deal with like kind of like domestic violence and that sort of thing. So it's a very heavy book, heavy topics, but I absolutely love this fantasy series. I'm excited to keep reading it, and these two are rereads for me, and I ended up giving these both 4.5 out of 5 stars. The next book I ended up picking up again was another nonfiction, and it was The Socrates Express by Eric Weiner. I ended up giving this one 3.5 out of 5 stars. I think I would have enjoyed this more had I annotated it, but I borrowed it from my library, so I could not write in it. This is definitely a book that I would 100% reread, just so I can take the time to actually like flip through it and like highlight and write in it and kind of fully grasp all of these life lessons from these dead philosophers. And I did think it was a really great book. So it tackles basically how to live life, so basically like how to relax and how to get out of bed in the morning and how to grieve and how to deal with death and how to basically live, and how to have patience. And I thought it was really, really well done, and I did enjoy how it was broken up and kind of how it like shifted from topic to topic. I thought it was really interesting. But again, this is definitely a book that I would reread, and I think I would enjoy it more if I was able to like really fully destroy my copy of my book. Next book I picked up was The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien, which is set during the Vietnam War, following a bunch of soldiers and kind of their life after Vietnam. And this book reminds me of Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut, and in the way that you're kind of following the main character you're following is like recounting what had happened to him, but also telling other people's stories. It's very interesting. I kind of liked that in that aspect. I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. Next book I ended up picking up was Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I ended up giving this one 3 out of 5 stars, and I am surprised I didn't love this book. Like, this is probably one of my biggest disappointments of the year, I'm not gonna lie, because I really thought I was gonna love it. I just felt like this book moved far too slow for what it was. There was so much wording, and it felt very unnecessary, and the plot moved really slow. And this is pitched as like a cozy fantasy, but there's only so much cozy fantasy you can like work with. And I don't know how there's gonna be a second book. It just felt really boring and dry, and it droned on and on uselessly, and there was never really a point to all of it, in my opinion. At least the point didn't really stick very well with me. And after 300 pages, it just got really old really fast, and I will not be continuing the series, unfortunately. The next book I picked up, an absolute banger by my girl J.R. Ward, who hardly ever disappoints. I ended up picking up The Beloved, which is the newest installment of the Black Dagger Brotherhood series, and I would like to personally thank whoever keeps those books stocked in my library. My heart goes out to you. To you. So this is following Nala, and she is grown up now, and Nala is Zadis, his only daughter, and he's very protective of her, and so she's trying to navigate like the dating world, and Dad's not super happy about it. So it's really nice to see all these characters again and have basically these kids that you've kind of watched grow up, now they're adults, and it's so exciting. And to me, after the last couple of books, I wasn't super into it. This book series is like we're on 23 books, 22 books now at this point, friends. And the last couple I was not super into. I just thought they were kind of dull. And this was J.R. Ward's breath of fresh air. This is the restart she needed. This book restarted like everything for me, and I am so happy I ended up picking it up. It's just, if you haven't read the series, I highly recommend Black Dagger Brotherhood series. It is chef's kiss. Oh, it's so good. The next book I picked up was The Woman They Could Not Silence by Kate Moore, and I ended up giving this one 4.5 out of 5 stars. I did not love this one as much as Radium Girls, but I do still think it was a fantastic read. So this is about a woman whose husband in like late 1800s commits her to an insane asylum because she is thinking on her own and is like kind of like, why are we doing things this way? And lo and behold, that's not allowed in the 1800s, and your husband can commit you to a insane asylum, and it's basically all these doctors and men trying to convince this woman that she's crazy, and she's like, I'm not crazy. And it was just done very well. I really do love Kate Moore's ability to paint a picture and really just dive deep into a subject matter and just really pull out the emotions in you, and she just does a fantastic job of doing it, and I really love her writing, I'm not gonna lie. Basically, this is how this woman paved the way for female rights, and especially in the state of Illinois, where your husband could commit you without any rhyme or reason and basically just say you're crazy, and that's it. So I highly recommend this one. It was so good. I then ended up picking up King by S.J. Tilley. I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. I did not love it as much as Nero. So this is following Savannah, who is going on this date, and she is going over to like someone's house. They're going on like a double date or something, and it turns out that this guy she's on a date with is actually married. And then King steps in. King is there for some reason, I don't know, and he murders her date and then forces her to marry him so that like he has an alibi and like can't like go against her in court or something. And I mean, that's what I'm guessing. I do love King's unhingedness, but I did not love this story as much as I loved Nero's. But I will definitely keep reading the series. I really do like S.J. Tilley's writing and her writing style. I think it's very fun, and I just really like mafia romances, so like sue me. But yeah, I just didn't really care for this as much as the other one. Then I ended up picking up The Gilded Cage by Lynette Nani, and this is the second book in the Prison Healer series. I really enjoyed this series. I ended up giving this book 5 out of 5 stars. I think the twists are just so good, and this has just been a really great YA series. I've really enjoyed it. I will probably never stop raving about it. This is probably in my top 10 YA fantasy series ever. It's just really, just to me, this feels like a breath of fresh air in the YA fantasy community, and so I'm going to die screaming about it. Okay, so the next book I picked up was Liars Like Us by J.T. Gressinger. I don't think I said that right. I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. So this is following Emery, whose bookstore is in financial ruin. All of her friends' lives are like on the brink of collapse if she doesn't save this bookstore. And that's when Callum swoops in after eavesdropping on her on a conversation and offers her $20 million to marry him so he can get access to his trust fund. What I loved about this book is how absolutely unhinged Callum is, and I underestimated how unhinged this man was going to be, because boy is he crazy. Love him though. Oh my gosh, he was great. This book is a morally gray series, and you kind of forget that it's a morally gray series, and he's basically willing to do whatever it takes to get what he wants, and so it was just really fun to read a man who is this unhinged, because it's been a while, and Callum is definitely one of my favorite MMCs as of late. And the last book I picked up was another nonfiction, and that was Beautiful Boy by David Sheff. I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. So this is following a father in his account of his son's substance abuse, and his son is very heavy into drugs, like straight out of like high school basically. So he's trying to recollect like where he went wrong and trying to save his son, and in the process basically becomes addicted to helping his son's addiction because he's constantly worried about his son. And I think he does a really great job of putting his thoughts into words. That sounds so dumb, oh my god. I think he does a really great job of kind of encompassing how addiction impacts families, because he also has 2 younger children who are impacted by his son's substance abuse issues. And as someone who has worked in the realm of substance abuse, I just think it was a really great book, and it does it delicately. Like, it's not something that, like, how do I want to say it? It doesn't glorify the use of drugs, and so I think it was just, it's a very touching book. It's very deep and very sad at times, and you want to scream, but like, this is like their lives, you know, basically the life they've lived for the last, like, I don't know, decade pretty much, and basically them all coming to terms that the son is a drug addict. He will always be a drug addict, and it doesn't matter what happens, he's always going to, you know, it's going to take a while, and you have to work the steps pretty much. Alright, and that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to let me know what your favorite book in the month of July was, and maybe I'll check it out. I hope you have a fantastic day. Goodbye!